Okay, we don't have crows here, but for my next build, I got myself the high-grade Striker GNX, an MS that featured in the Build Fighters battle log that didn't really do much other than the episode milking my wallet till it runs dry, but that's not to say that this isn't a terrible kit, but in fact a really awesome one in my opinion. This kit is a rehash of the original GNX from Gundam 00 that was released back in 27 or 2008. Oh god, did I just say 27? 2007, 2008. So I won't be surprised if seamlines occur in odd places during the early days of high grades. Dondoro build. Whee! Right off the bat, the Striker GNX is striking indeed. Unique in its appearance, and that dome head is just beautiful. Mwah! I love the slight asymmetry, the greens all over this kit, and the bulkiness adds a lot to its stature, indicating the MS to be a tank of some sort or mainly used for ground combat. This kit is a real joy to build. Now, I didn't add any stickers, and this is simply built right out of the box with no panel lining just so I could identify the pros and cons of the kit before disassembling and giving it a recolor to my taste. And surprise, not so surprising, there are seam lines here in the forearms and the legs, which shouldn't be a problem to cover with Tamiya cement, and this is a high grade so it is to be expected. But I don't want to address the dome piece covering the head, and just as I thought, it is simply relying on friction to keep the dome stabilized by retrofitting over the head to keep it in place as tight as possible. I will have to trim the pieces to avoid parts collision without damaging the paint job, otherwise the process will have to be repeated. The torso is another problem I'm seeing, and mainly it is these shoulder caps that moves freely and doesn't connect firmly onto the torso. The part here is loose because it is connected to a ball joint from the shoulder joint piece, which understandably is to provide a wider range of movement, which I don't have a problem with. However, this design might result in damaging the paint since the shoulder piece collides with the front armor chest too closely, so I'll have to trim this part as well. Perhaps my favorite part about recoloring is the process and how you can get creative with this concept. I struggled with concept, oscillating back and forth, deciding which color palette to choose from and sticking to it. The Striker GNX has a bland color design and lacks oomph, even though the military green works so well for this kit. But I asked myself, what if the MS was made for space combat? I based the idea on three references I pulled out: the Grimoire Red Beret, the Grey Space Commander type, and the mech designs from the film premiere. These essentially is what makes their design out of this world. But anyway, I decided to get crazy with the colors, but perhaps not too crazy. While the idea may look good on paper, the output may speak otherwise. Therefore, I wanted to limit the color choices to a minimum of 3 palettes just so the output doesn't look too busy or too harsh. After putting it all together, I welcome the Striker GNX Space Type version. Because of the added colors, it really made this kit pop and somewhat a striking GNX. I'm gonna stop now. Without the armor on, it simply looks almost like a regular GNX, but the downside to this is how limited the articulation is. Head articulation can barely look up because of the massive collar and its giant chin. Arms could barely swing up to the sides and limited splits on the legs due to its thick thighs, but it's for the best I believe, as it made this kit sturdy and able to stand on its own once I put the armor all together. Obviously, I took most of the inspiration from the Grimoire Red Beret because of that dome piece, and I added a dash of dynamism in the mix, which made this kit stand out, at least on my shelf, once I have a shelf. However, there is one tiny detail that sort of threw the look away and it hurts me to my core the longer I look at it. Can you guess what it is? No? Well, it's the right chest plate. As I was assembling the kit, the chest plate fell off and took me forever to look for it until I found the piece was bit off by my dog. Yes, you did because you bit off my chest piece because you're so cute. But I can always adapt to small changes now that the kit has an extra oomph, much like a tattoo, and I'm always down with the symmetry. The GN Smart Gun is one of the coolest weapon design, and masking the parts wasn't easy and can get quite tedious. With the kit painted, it took me a couple of tries to pose with it, and it had to be done carefully, without any parts scraping the paint off of each other, especially with the added layers of armor that made this kit difficult to pose. I applied pre-shading to add a sense of realism other than a simple flat coat, and I gotta say, pre-shading creates so much layers and it's really fascinating how it completely changes the look of the kit, considering this is my first time executing pre-shading techniques. Of course, I didn't have any decent marking sheets, so I used the master grade Double O Quanta waterslide decals to make up for it. Overall, this has been a pleasant build and I have more kits on standby and I can't wait to experiment new techniques for the next upcoming build. But that'll be all for today, and it's time to continue building forward. Build safe, stay safe, see ya!